at 5 is going to come up in just a few minutes. We're going to finish listening to the president first.
I don't want to say, but you'd be surprised. Would you be surprised? But I don't want to say.
Hey, can you talk a little bit more about some of the recent departures from the White House, including the Vindman twins?
No, well, I obviously wasn't happy with the job he did. First of all, he reported a false call. That wasn't what was said on the call. What was said on the call was totally appropriate, and I call it a perfect call. I always will call it a perfect call. And it wasn't one call, it was two calls. There were two perfect calls. There was no setup, there was no anything, and he reported it totally differently. And then they all went wild when I said that we have transcripts of the calls, and they turned out to be totally accurate transcripts. And if anybody felt there was any changes, we let them make it because it didn't matter. So we had accurate, totally accurate transcripts, and it turned out that what he reported was very different. And also, when you look at Vindman's, the person he reports to said horrible things, avoided the chain of command, leaked, did a lot of bad things. And so we sent him on his way to a much different location, and the military can handle him any way they want. General Milley has him now. I congratulate General Milley. He can have him, and his brother also. So we'll find out what happened. I mean, we'll find out. But he reported very inaccurate things. You understand that, John? When you look at his report and then when you look at what actually the exact words. Fortunately, I had the words, because otherwise we would have had a lot of people lying, and we were able to do it. So fortunately, we had transcripts of those calls. I think you guys all agree with that, right? Wasn't it nice? After they said these horrible things and made up these horrible, horrible lies about what was said on the call, and then I said, here's the call. I had a transcript. If I didn't have a transcript, it would have been my word against their word. But there were other people on that call, too. Many people on that call. Mike Pompeo. And I know that when I speak to the head of state of countries, presidents, prime ministers, etc., there are always a lot of people on those calls, especially from the other countries, I imagine. I don't know that for a fact, but I know for a fact that we have a lot of people on those calls. Who would say something wrong? I wouldn't say it wrong anyway, but who would say wrong when a call is loaded up with, sometimes as many as 25 people, sometimes as many as 3 or 4 or 2, but there's always people on those calls. I fully know that. But that was a perfect call, and it wasn't reported the way it was reported, like, oh, it was so terrible. That was a very nice call. That was a very friendly call. A couple of things. The president, as you know, of Ukraine stated very strongly that there was no pressure, there was no anything, there was nothing wrong. And it was really a very sad state of affairs that our country wasted that much time on nothing. And I want to thank our 3 senators that are here for agreeing with me. I mean, you had one grandstander. He's always been a grandstander. Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Absolutely. There always are.
When you say that the military can deal with Vindman any way that they want?
Yeah, well, that's up to them. He is over with the military.
Do you think he needs to face disciplinary?
That's going to be up to the military. We'll have to see. But if you look at what happened, I mean, they're going to certainly, I would imagine, take a look at that. But no, I think what he did was just reported a false call. If you look at what he said, and I'll tell you, the one worse was, you look at Schiff. Take a look at what he did. He made up my conversation. And then we dropped the transcript, and he almost had a heart attack. Didn't he say 8 quid pro quos? Think of it. So 8 times I said the same thing, according to Schiff. If I ever did that, so you say it once. Now you say it again. We're talking about a man that I've never even met before. Now you say it a 3rd time, a 4th time, a 5th time, 6th time, 7th time, 8 times. 8 times he said that I asked for the exact same thing in one call. After the 3rd time, they'd have to take you away, okay? He's a sick person. Schiff is a very corrupt politician, and he's a sick person. So he made up, totally made up. And because he's shielded, which a lot of people didn't know, but because he's shielded by the halls of Congress, in terms of what he says, you can say anything you want. He made up a story. It was total fiction. And then at the end, he said, don't call me, I'll call you. That's a mob statement. Very famous statement in numerous movies, one in particular. That's a mob statement. Don't call me, I'll call you. He said that I said that. He said that I said 8 times quid pro quo. Well, there were no times quid pro quo, nothing. That whole thing was corrupt and a disgrace. And Romney's a disgrace. for voting against. He's a disgrace. Okay, anybody else?
Can I just ask you to elaborate a little bit more on stop and frisk? It's going to be a big issue in the coming days. Do you support that policy? And is it, as you said, in between?
Anything we can do to get down crime and to get rid of drugs. But I think when a man is with stop and frisk his whole life, and then he decides to go Democrat, and he goes to a church, and he's practically crying. It looked like hell. He's practically crying, saying what a horrible thing he did. I think that's so disingenuous. You know what I'm talking about, fellas. That was so of Bloomberg. Look, he's a lightweight. He's a lightweight. You're going to find that out. He's also one of the worst debaters I've ever seen, and his presence is zero. So he'll spend his $300, $400, $500 million. Maybe they will take it away. Frankly, I'd rather run against Bloomberg than Bernie Sanders, because Sanders has real followers, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with him or not. I happen to think it's terrible what he says, but he has followers. Bloomberg's just buying his way in. But we're going to find out what happens. We're going to find out. But when you go back to the church where he apologized for everything he ever did practically, and he looked pathetic. Our country doesn't need that kind of leadership. Thank you all very much. It's stumbling. It's mumbling. Not pretty. But we'll see how he does. You never know. You never know. The only time you knew for sure was the Trump campaign. Trump was going to win.
Do you think he can turn it around in South Carolina?
He could always turn it around. You know, I think it's not going to be easy. I think he can turn it around, yeah. I think he has a shot. He's got probably almost as good a shot as anyone, but he's going to have to work. He's going to have to work very hard, much harder than they thought. Don't forget, when he first ran, I called him 1% Joe, because every time he ran, he only got 1%. And then Obama took him off the garbage heap. But he only got 1%, right, John? You know that. 1% Joe, but now he's, 19% Joe? It's better. He's doing better. He's made a lot of progress. But it's going to be very interesting. I think we're going to have a very interesting Democrat race, and I think we're going to have a very interesting election. But our country is doing better than it's ever done. We've rebuilt our military thanks to the people back here. We've taken care of our vets at a level that they've never been taken care of before. Jerry, been never even close. And it's really something that we're very proud of. You look at the economy. I mean, we have the best economy we've ever had. We have the best employment numbers we've ever had. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American. We're going to protect our Second Amendment. The Democrats want to take away the guns. They want to take away everyone's gun. They want to destroy the Second Amendment. So when you add it all up, you know, I don't see how we lose, but you never know. It's politics, right, fellas? Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Thanks, everybody. Out to play.
Press, we're leaving now. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. We're leaving. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks,
Keep
everybody.
going out. Thank you, press.
All right, that was President Trump talking about a variety of topics, mocking the 2020 Democrats as well before the polls close here in New Hampshire.